So the company is Sensory AI. It was founded in 2015, and we place smart sensors on city vehicles to automate road inspections. That's our most popular service, and now we're branching out into doing fleet management, and we're also offering all sorts of different services in terms of open data handling, initiatives of that variety, along with going into smart cooperative purchasing and other technologies of that sort. I've taken a leave of absence from school indefinitely to pursue this company instead, because quite frankly, compared to the prospects of an undergraduate degree and a Bachelor of Arts, it's more risky to get that piece of paper than it is to flesh out this idea and see it through to the end, whatever that end may be. Well, you're essentially a CTO for hire, and I mean, you're talking about a handful of competencies that are working towards whatever needs I may have, and so the contribution here is largely one of expertise. I've trusted you as people. The conversations that I had with you led me to the conclusion that you understood what exactly I needed, and we were on a kind of standing ground where, in terms of communication, I knew that if we had a misunderstanding, that we'd talk through it, we'd find a solution, and you'd help me troubleshoot any problems that came across technically. So I wanted to make sure when I was looking at any company that the price matched up with my expectations in terms of what I wanted from the project, and that made the decision rather simple. The problem that we had with the devices that we install on city vehicles is that it's an incredibly time-consuming, expensive manual process. It means that if we install 3 devices in vehicles in Grandview, Missouri, that once every month, once every quarter, we have to visit each of those devices physically to simply retrieve data from them. And the liability costs, the opportunity costs, it's incredible, especially if you imagine scaling this not from just one city, but to 100 or 1,000 cities. And so the entire goal of the project was to automate this process, so I don't have to physically visit devices, scheduling with work crews, getting permits and security clearances to work on different vehicles. Instead, I can simply sit at my office on my computer and check whether or not the data is being sent and then analyze it. Yeah, we're still looking at deploying this within the next couple of months, depending on scheduling with cities. But the entire idea, even in this prototyping and testing phase and at the completion of the project, seems to be completely solved. You delivered it a week early. It's functioning as I needed. There were a couple issues that cropped up in terms of the amount of data that we're dealing with is overwhelming, and it took about a half-hour conversation and 1 or 2 lines of code from you guys to narrow down that incredible amount of data to about 90% less. And so that's what really made me enjoy the process. Well, I mean, the entire point of this project was simply to automate a very manual process. That saves me money in terms of time and actual direct costs. It's pretty easy to communicate. For example, there were some technical requirements that I needed to crunch a few numbers for, and it wasn't as if I had to schedule a meeting and sit down and give you a piece of paper to tell you what it was. I just sent one of your team members a text with the answer, and that was as simple as it was. They made it incredibly seamless for what I needed, which is good for someone who doesn't have the time to manage the project in the first place. Whenever I came to visit and do different projects and interviews and follow-ups on the different phases of the project, there were only so many people in the office the day before Thanksgiving, and you were here working on it, and so that stood out in my mind as rather reflective of not just work ethic, but dedication to projects and timelines. Timeliness, I would say transparent, and I guess if you really want one phrase, I would say you keep to your word, and you've kept to your word, you've delivered on time, and you've made sure to integrate feedback in the entire process along the way. Yeah, I definitely recommend you. I'd say that beyond just transparency, you fairly price the work that you've done. There's very little that I understand that would be outside of your expertise in terms of, most hardware applications or even software wise. I'm happy with it, and I hope we have a handful of add-on projects.